So you have developed this process of working with actors, and on this one, each movie you've refined it and changed it and adapted to what you learned on the last one.
Right.
So what did you learn on the last one, and what did you change about your process this time, and why?
I really feel like the process with the actors was really similar. It was working with them to develop their backstories and who they actually were, who they are, who those characters are, in the interest of investing them in the project so it feels like our project instead of just my project. A. B, so that it feels that the character, they can just slip on like a hand into a glove. And so that when they're, forced to respond to a line that they're not expecting on set because we're improvising, it's just going to be second nature what comes out of their mouths when they open their mouths to respond, because they really understand who they are, what they mean to each other, and what's happened right up to the moment of that scene taking place. So I really feel like those basic principles were all applied in Hump Day, and I just maybe had more confidence maybe applying them in this film because it worked so well in that film. But
you developed a much more elaborate script this time?
One of the adjustments I made was that, with Hump Day it was a 10-page outline because I had two veteran improvisers who were totally comfortable with that. And in this case I had 70 pages of dialogue written out because I had Mark, who's a veteran improviser, but then two actors who were not as adept or comfortable or confident in the process. And so I just didn't want them, I wanted to give them some kind of security blanket, basically. But I asked them not to memorize the lines and to not hold them too tightly, but instead to just use it as a guideline. And then if they fell in love with a line or even a series of lines, to feel free to use them. But I just didn't want them to, I wanted it to feel different. I wanted it to feel like fresher and more conversational, and for them to be able to bring their own cadences of speech, and sort of find the overlap between themselves and the characters, and how we speak is so much of that. So, and they did a great job. I mean, it was with the scenes that they played out with Mark, it was very helpful because he could be sort of the ringleader, He's so confident, and that confidence was really contagious. That confidence was contagious, and he's also very generous and sort of,
Well, he came up with the beginning of this.
Yes.
And I thought that was so generous of him to bring something to you instead of, it feels like he has so much going on that he's sharing. It's an unusual way to be.
Extremely generous in general. I mean, he's got a lot of producer credits on other, he's always helping. He's a really generous guy. But I mean, I feel like for Mark, I don't think he'd be comfortable unless he had a lot of different things going on at the same time, because that's just the way he operates, as his MO, what he thrives on, really. But yeah, I think he really enjoyed working with me on Hump Day, and realized, I think we both realized
it was good for both of you.
A good fit, and it's a good collaboration. It was great for both of us, and so we were both definitely open to the idea of doing it again, and hadn't really been actively thinking of things. At least I hadn't really been, thinking too hard about it. But when he called up, I was definitely ready, I was ready to like it. And then I really did like it. And although what's funny is the original incarnation didn't have any sisters involved. He called up, I don't know if you heard about that part of it, but he called up with, okay, this is it. Guy and a girl, best friends. He's in a bad place. He's just lost his brother. She sends him up to the family getaway to have some alone time, get his head together, figure out his life. And there, he thinks he's going to be alone, but he encounters his best friend's mother. And then it turns in, she shows up the next day, and it turns into this kind of like, some sort of a twisted love story.
You did change it quite a bit.
I changed it quite a bit.
So you have these parallel siblings.
That was what I was attracted to. Was just a little less Oedipal and a little bit more. And it
wasn't all about him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it ends up being about two sets of siblings and how their lives end up entangling in a really unexpected ways.
Now, were you surprised in the end that Emily Blunt, who does have some independent experience, even if not all improvisational, but that she and DeWitt were so able to jump into this pond? Talk about that process for them. And also the fact that the camera is so close to them. Some of those scenes in bed with the two
Yeah.
sisters, those are some of my favorite
Oh,
scenes,
thanks.
with the sheets rustling.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that kind of intimacy and
Yeah.
also the tactile sort of sounds that you were using?
Right. Well, the intimacy all comes from, and the sort of the ability. What I try and do is create a really emotionally safe environment. It's a huge component to the way I like to work. I want everybody on set, the cast and the crew, to all feel totally emotionally safe. Because I've noticed that in collaboration, the best collaboration at its best is when everybody's bringing the best out of each other. And making art is very risky because you're putting a piece of your soul out for the world to judge, you know. And so you have to have an incredible amount of trust if you want to create the best work in a collaborative environment with everybody. So I really carefully consider who I'm going to ask onto that set. In this case, I really wanted exactly the right number of bodies. It was a small, cramped environment, and so I wanted to make sure that, it was very small. We had like a baker's dozen of crew. That was it.
And you have your cameraman that you always work with.
Right, and several of those people I've worked with again and again and again. My sound and camera I've worked with from the very, very beginning, and several projects with my production designer and my lighter, and everybody is. I know that they're all going to be a really good fit with each other. That there's going to be a lot of good humor. Everybody handles stress in a similar, healthy kind of way. There's no lashing out and then I'm so sorry later. It's nothing like that. There's no toxicity on set. So they also really understand how I like to work as a director, and they really understand that the focus is all on creating this very safe space for the actors to work on within. And I also want the actors to trust me that I'm never going to let any of their misfires show up on screen. So they can fully just go all out and try out stuff that they would be normally terrified to try, under other circumstances. But they know I'm only going to show them at their best in the end.
Now, there's one particular line that just hits you like it. It's one of the funniest things I've ever heard, and it's this intimate revelation from sister to sister. I guess it's a beaver joke of some kind. I don't know what else to say.
To put it delicately.
Where did that come from?
That came from the fact that I was looking for a change. I needed there to be a shift in the dynamic in the dinner scene. And I whispered to Rose that she needed to embarrass Emily. And she said, I've got it. And she didn't tell me, she didn't tell anybody what she was going to say. And you actually get to see Emily Blunt blush for real on screen. And it's a great example of the potential of improv and those moments that can only be, why you never want to, you always want to shoot the rehearsal. You're never going to rehearse improv because those are the kinds of surprises and genuine reactions that you can't get any other way. I mean, there's certain actors who could probably fake it really well, but it would be very difficult.
And what was your decision as far as having to sort of cover for the fact that one sister is British and the other is not?
Oh, I mean, that was no problem at all. They were always meant to be half-sisters.
Rachel Weisz was also.
Right, but even when Rachel was on, they were going to be half-sisters. And in a way, it's sort of easier, I think it's less confusing that here they are in this American cabin, and it actually helps a lot that the older sister is American, because, I don't know, for some reason I think it's like your ears are pricked up waiting for the explanation. Why do we have these two sisters? They have different accents. And then you're waiting for the explanation, and by the time it comes, you're like,
beyond it.
I see.
Yeah.
They're half-sisters. That makes perfect sense. Oh, and they only spent summers together with their dad. Oh, okay, so they had two different moms. They grew up. And then it's sort of the whole context kind of just flows in an organic way, I think.